Welcome to the deep dive. I'm so glad you're joining us today.
Yeah, we have a really fascinating one for you.
We absolutely do. Today, we are looking at this totally paradigm-shifting article by Dr. Nomasonto Ntsele. It was published in the Sacred Return Journal, and it's titled Money, a Huge Contributor to Period Pains.
Which is quite the title, right?
I mean, exactly.
I'll go
If you are sitting there right now thinking, how on earth does my bank account cause a biological muscle cramp? Trust me, you were exactly where I was when I first saw this.
It's a very natural reaction. It really
Mhm.
challenges how we view symptoms.
Right. But today, our mission is to go completely past that standard mechanical view of health. We're going to untangle the deeply intertwined relationship between, well, financial trauma, historical exclusion, and literal physical pain.
Yeah, it really goes deep into the mind-body connection.
It does. So whether you're catching up on holistic health perspectives or you're just wildly curious about how that mind-body connection actually works, this deep dive is going to fundamentally reframe how you think about your biology, your productivity, and, frankly, your desperate need for a nap.
Absolutely. And to be clear right up front, this isn't about villainizing wealth. Dr. Nitzel explicitly says money is not the enemy.
Right. It's not money is evil.
Exactly. It's more about untangling the immense emotional weight that it carries for us.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because on the surface, the title alone is just a massive pattern interrupt. Money and period pain.
Yeah.
We usually treat physical symptoms like an engineering problem.
Yeah, very binary.
Like you get a cramp, you look for the broken gear, you take a pill to block a receptor, and it's clean, done.
Yeah.
How does a financial concept, a completely invented societal construct like money, manifest as a physical spasm in the uterus?
Well, to bridge that gap between commerce and biology, we really have to look first at how human beings unconsciously categorize the world. And Dr. Nentzel does this beautifully by looking at language because, language is essentially the architecture of our subconscious.
Right, it shapes how we actually perceive reality.
Exactly. And she points out this striking linguistic fact. In one of the native languages in South Africa, the word for money is madi.
Okay, body.
But madi is also the exact same word used for blood.
Oh, wow. That is heavy.
It really is.
So the currency you use to buy bread shares the exact same word as the fluid keeping your organs alive.
Right. What's fascinating here is the symbolic depth of that overlap, because think about what blood actually does in the human body.
What keeps us going?
Yeah, it is the ultimate vital currency. It circulates resources, it delivers oxygen, it carries away waste.
Yeah.
And if you lose it, you are instantly in existential danger. Your brain goes into immediate panic mode.
So by linking money and blood linguistically, we get this window into how deeply money is tethered to our most primal nervous system drives.
Exactly. For the brain, money isn't just about, buying a nicer pair of shoes or upgrading a car. Subconsciously, money is survival. It is safety.
Wow.
Yeah. If you are cut off from the quote-unquote lifeblood of the community's economy, your primitive brain interprets that as a literal threat to your life.
So it's like money is the actual lifeblood of the modern nervous system.
Yeah.
Just pumping the pressure to perform through our veins 24/7.
That's a great way to put it.
But wait, I need to push back here for a second because a metaphor is one thing, right? And biology is another.
Sure.
So how exactly does a bank account balance or that ambient psychological pressure, that subconscious fear of running out of madi translate into actual physical cramps? Like what is the actual mechanism there?
Well, let's look at the biology because it is very tangible. It happens through the autonomic nervous system.
Okay.
When your brain perceives a threat to your survival, and remember, your subconscious views a lack of money or a lack of productivity as a mortal threat, it triggers a stress response.
The classic fight or flight.
Right. The brain signals the adrenal glands to just flood the body with cortisol and adrenaline.
The system designed to help us outrun a predator.
Exactly. But you can't outrun a bank statement.
No, you definitely cannot.
So that cortisol just sits in your system. And chronic high levels of cortisol create systemic inflammation throughout the entire body.
Oh, okay.
Now, when we look at the menstrual cycle, the uterus relies on chemical compounds called prostaglandins to trigger the muscle contractions that shed the uterine lining.
Wait, prostaglandins?
Yeah, they're lipid compounds that mediate inflammation.
Oh, So there's the chemical bridge.
Yes, exactly. When your body is in a state of chronic stress, it produces an excessive amount of inflammation, which then triggers an overproduction of prostaglandins.
So a stressed, hypervigilant brain is literally manufacturing more of the exact chemical that causes severe cramping.
You got it. And add to that the fact that adrenaline makes your muscles literally tense up, preparing to fight.
Right, you're braced for impact.
Yeah. So for someone experiencing their cycle, their uterus is already contracting naturally. When you layer systemic inflammation, excessive prostaglandins, and chronic muscle tension on top of that biological process.
It becomes excruciatingly painful.
Precisely.
Okay, that makes complete sense mechanically. But if this is just about modern 9 to 5 burnout or, stressing over an electric bill, taking a 2-week vacation should cure severe period cramps entirely.
Right, but it doesn't.
It doesn't. Which makes me think this stress isn't just coming from my email inbox. It feels like the tension we are carrying today didn't just start with us.
And that is the core of Dr. Ntsele's argument. Answering why we feel this relentless pressure requires us to look backward.
Okay.
The physical tension we feel today was inherited, because historically, women were systematically excluded from economies.
Right.
Depending on the culture and the era, women were largely excluded from property ownership, from holding land, opening bank accounts independently.
Let alone getting the formal education that would allow them to generate their own money.
Exactly. So they were completely structurally dependent on someone else, usually a father or a husband, for their actual physical survival.
Which means they didn't have their own money.
No, they didn't. And because of that structural exclusion, the generations of women before us had to survive through alternative means.
Like what?
Well, if you cannot secure your safety through financial independence, you secure it through immense endurance. You secure it through the suppression of your own needs.
Wow.
Yeah, through overfunctioning and through profound self-sacrifice. You make yourself so utterly useful to the family structure that they literally cannot afford to discard you.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. We hear so much in culture today about this concept of generational wealth.
Oh, certainly.
Like passing down real estate, trust funds, stock portfolios to give your kids this massive head start in life. But Dr. Ntsele is essentially talking about the exact opposite.
Yes, she is.
She's talking about generational debt, and not financial debt, but a massive, invisible, emotional debt that the physical body is being forced to pay off.
That concept of generational debt is precisely what psychology refers to as the mother wound.
The mother wound. Okay.
And to be clear here, this isn't necessarily about whether someone had a positive or negative relationship with their individual mother.
Okay, so it's broader than that.
Much broader. It's about the inherited trauma of the female experience. Children watch their mothers. Women alive today watch their mothers or their grandmothers survive. And they absorbed those behavioral adaptations.
I had to stop you there, though.
Yeah.
Because framing it as an inherited emotional debt sounds incredibly heavy, almost deterministic,
It does sound heavy, yeah.
Are we saying people are just biologically doomed to inherit this pain? Like, is it a genetic mutation, or are we just talking about unconsciously mimicking our parents' stress?
Well, it's actually a combination of both. On the behavioral side, a child learns the equations for survival by watching their primary caregivers. So if a young girl watches her mother completely ignore her own exhaustion to serve everyone else, she internalizes that lesson. The lesson becomes, love is achieved through sacrifice. Safety is secured by doing everything.
Value is tied exclusively to productivity.
Exactly. The internal vow becomes, I must never struggle the way my mother struggled, so I must work twice as hard.
And what about on the biological side?
On the biological side, a child's nervous system literally co-regulates with the mother's nervous system.
Oh, right, because we're mammals.
Exactly. So if the mother's baseline state is one of financial hypervigilance and survival stress, the child's baseline for what feels normal is set incredibly high.
Wow.
They grow up with an autonomic nervous system that is already biased toward fight or flight. They carry that systemic inflammation long before they even understand what a mortgage is.
So it's a form of emotional survival achieved through self-abandonment.
Yes. You detach from your physical sensations and you just keep functioning. Because historically, survival was inextricably attached to being ceaselessly productive.
Which brings up a massive, violent collision, because we have this psychological inheritance, this deeply wired drive to overfunction, to never stop, to never be dependent, crashing right into the biological reality of being a human being.
Yeah, that is the core conflict.
Yeah.
Because human biology, and particularly a reproductive system, does not move in a straight upward trending line.
Not at all.
The body inherently moves in cycles. It has seasons. Just like nature, the body actively, biologically requires winter. It asks for rest.
Right, it requires softness, time for emotional processing, for cellular repair, and just pausing.
Exactly. But modern life demands the exact opposite.
Literally the exact opposite. The modern economic system demands that you function with the exact same emotional, mental, and energetic output every single day, Monday through Friday, week after week, year after year.
Yeah. If we look at the transition into modern capitalism, modernity expects a flat line of constant, predictable productivity.
Which is completely unnatural.
Highly unnatural, because bodies naturally move through different internal seasons, hormonally, mentally, energetically. When you force a cyclical organism to perform linearly, you create extreme internal friction.
So over time, this profound disconnection between what the body inherently needs and what the external world demands creates severe physiological tension.
Yes.
It's like trying to run a smartphone on 100% brightness, streaming video all day, every day, without ever letting it plug in and recharge. All because you're terrified that if the screen ever dims, you completely lose your value.
That is a perfect analogy, or like driving a car with the emergency brake pulled all the way up.
Yes. The engine is revving. That's
Yeah.
the cortisol, the adrenaline, the pressure to produce.
Yeah.
But you're fighting your own chassis.
Exactly. You are fighting the natural design of the vehicle. And eventually, the friction causes the engine to start smoking. The period cramps, the migraines, the exhaustion. That's the smoke.
Oh, that's so clear. So the smoke isn't the root problem, it's just the indicator of the friction.
Right. And it explains why Dr. Nentzel says that period pain isn't solely a hormonal event. The body keeps score, as the famous trauma saying goes.
Right.
The pain is the nervous system physically carrying generations of survival pressure, fear, and inherited exhaustion. It's the inherited exhaustion finally forcing the body to stop because the conscious mind refuses to.
Wow. So the pain is essentially an involuntary intervention by the body.
Exactly.
So essentially, my uterus is punishing me because my great-grandmother wasn't allowed to have her own bank account. I mean, that's a lot of pressure for a Tuesday.
It is a staggering amount of pressure, and while we can trace the history, we also have to look at the present.
Right.
Because we have to ask, what is the actual script running in the background right now that makes putting the car in park feel so dangerous?
Exactly. Because if you know you are exhausted, why not just rest? I mean, if you're listening right now and you've ever felt that spike of sharp guilt when you sit on the couch for 10 minutes without being quote-unquote productive, what is actually causing that spike? What are the specific thoughts keeping people trapped in this cycle of overexertion?
Dr. Nacelle drills down into this deeply. The internal monologue keeping people trapped is rarely just a surface-level thought of, I need money to pay this bill.
Right, it's deeper than that.
Much deeper. The questions haunting the subconscious are things like, if I stop performing, who will I become?
That's an identity crisis right there.
Yeah.
The fear is that without output, you literally cease to exist.
Yes. Or thoughts like, if I rest, will I still be worthy of love? If I slow down, will everything around me fall apart?
Oh, man.
And incredibly common for those carrying that mother wound we discussed. If I don't carry everyone, who will?
Because of those deep-seated, historically inherited fears, slowing down doesn't just feel like taking a break. It feels deeply irresponsible.
Exactly. Needing help feels fundamentally shameful.
So they live silently trapped in this agonizing space between exhaustion and guilt. If they work, they are exhausted to the bone. If they rest, the guilt and the shame of not being productive just eats them alive.
There's no safe harbor.
No safe harbor at all.
And this raises an important question for you, the listener, to consider right now. How are you defining your worth?
Yeah.
Because as long as your worth is defined by your output, rest will always feel like a threat to your existence. And Dr. Nitzel uses a brilliant play on words here that really drives this home.
Okay.
We often talk about healing by saying we need to pay attention to our bodies.
Right. Pay attention. We use that phrase constantly in wellness spaces.
But think about the word pay. When you pay for something, what do you use? You use currency. You use madi.
Oh, wow.
Dr. Nitzel is pointing out that we are spending our internal currency, our attention, our energy, our literal life force.
Where are we spending it?
Exactly. Are we spending it entirely on external performance to validate our existence to a system that doesn't care about us? Or are we paying attention to the physical vessel that actually carries us?
That is profound. So what does this all mean for someone listening to this deep dive who is realizing right now that they've entirely confused their exhaustion with their worthiness?
Well, it means it's time to transition from recognizing this massive historical debt to actually healing.
Right, because if someone has been wearing their burnout like a badge of honor because they thought that's just what it cost to be a valuable human being, how do they actually start that healing process?
Dr. Nuntsel is very clear on the path forward. True healing isn't just about removing symptoms. If you just take a painkiller for the period cramps, but you don't change the survival patterns driving the nervous system into constant overdrive.
The body will simply find another way to keep score.
Exactly. It will manifest as a migraine, or an autoimmune flare-up, or insomnia. True healing begins when an individual finally gives themselves permission to stop surviving.
Permission to stop surviving. I mean, that sounds simple, but to a nervous system wired for panic, declaring the war is over, I am safe now, is incredibly difficult.
It requires deep, intentional unlearning. And Dr. Netzel actually offers a specific framework for doing this deep reflection. She pulls from astrological traditions, actually.
Oh, really? Like what?
She mentions utilizing the timing of the first quarter of the moon and the Cancer new moon.
Okay, why those specifically?
Well, in many holistic and astrological traditions, Cancer represents the archetype of the mother, the home, our roots, and our deepest emotional security.
So it's not just a random date on the calendar. It's utilizing a symbolic window to address that specific mother wound we talked about.
Exactly. She suggests using this time to reflect on those inherited emotional patterns, to look at your family tree and ask, whose anxiety am I currently acting out?
That is such a powerful question.
It is, and for those who want to go deeper into the practical application, she offers a masterclass where she shares her own personal journey of behavioral changes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, she details how she healed her period pains naturally, not through extreme medical intervention, but by fundamentally changing her relationship with her body.
Like setting rigorous boundaries and redefining her internal worth.
Exactly.
It is incredibly empowering to realize that the pain isn't just a biological flaw or a mechanical failure, it's a message. And it's a message you can actually decode and respond to.
Absolutely.
So, to you listening, we want to ask you to sit gently with whatever this deep dive has brought up for you today. Ask yourself directly, what forms of survival have you normalized?
Yeah.
What emotional needs have you completely ignored simply because you felt you needed to appear strong to the world or to your family?
And as you ask yourself those questions, please do not judge yourself. This is vital.
Yes, no self-judgment.
You have been surviving a system and an inherited physiological baseline that was built long before you got here. If recognizing this brings up emotion, allow it.
It's okay to feel it.
Dr. Nentzel beautifully frames this. She says even crying is a soul cleanse. It's the body finally releasing the pressure valve. It is the beginning of putting language to what your body has been carrying silently for years, maybe even for generations.
Which brings us back to where we started today. We talked at the beginning about how we expect physical pain to be a clean, mechanical diagnosis. You look for the broken bone on the x-ray.
Right.
But as we've seen today, sometimes the x-ray isn't showing a broken bone, it's showing the invisible weight of history. It's showing inherited debts. It's showing Mahdi.
The body truly is a living ledger. It records everything the mind tries to forget.
It really does. So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. It's something to take with you long after this audio ends.
Let's hear it.
If physical pain, like severe period cramps, is often the body keeping score, if it is literally your nervous system crying out against unsustainable, inherited systems of worth, what happens when we stop seeing a day of rest as an indulgence or a luxury? What happens when you start treating a nap as the ultimate act of generational rebellion?
I love that.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.